it's quite important that persons are volunteering, or sometimes they have to, based on the business and transaction they do, whether for business or for pleasure, they'll have to give up a lot of personal and sensitive information. And sometimes this will lead to give access to whatever, you know, systems and devices that they have. So quite vividly, I support what is happening and what it is with this type of technology. But going forward, we can't predict what the criminal element will do. Certainly, this will make it more challenging. I would suspect further layer of security in terms of encryption will also come with the two-factor, the multi-factor authentication. So it's good. It's good, especially now. Let's say we were doing a lot more e-business, a lot more e-services, and as I said, a lot of industries are now using these type of systems and way of life for their day-to-day operation. And the important thing is to protect those digital assets, of course. And once we apply multi-factor authentication as another layer of or the choice layer of security, then it means it strengthens their robustness and resilience, and of course, give perpetrators more headache and the users less headache. That's it from me, sir. Mr. Sterling, are you still there?
Yes, we're still here, trying to work through some of the inherent challenges with technology. And we thank you for that insightful bit. Now, one of the situations that we face oftentimes is persons seeking to inquire just how it is that what they're doing will help to protect them from cyber crimes. And as the panel is inherently law enforcement, is there any additional nuggets of wisdom that you can impart to our audience as it relates to how multi-factor authentication, notwithstanding what it actually is, can actually help to secure your cyber experience?
I can go ahead and start that one. So I mentioned earlier that there are multiple data breaches every day, or there are threat hackers out there that are stealing credentials and getting into different systems, getting into different accounts. When we enable multi-factor authentication on our devices, it stops them in their track, that they may get your username and they may get your password. However, with the added layer of security being an email that was sent or a push notification on a different device, this protects you. They are unable to go further to access your information, to access your data, your accounts, whatever it is behind that login. So that's one way that we are secured or more secure online when we enable multi-factor authentication on our accounts. That's my tidbit.
Well, Major Sterling, I may add to that also. We tend to have this false sense of security. Of course, we know how digital technology are and is, and with multi-factor authentication, it should bring that level of, reassurance to users, because as it is touted that technology is here to promote economic growth and development. So we don't want people to be scared not to use technology. Like everything else, there is the upside and the downside. But I strongly believe there is more good than bad. And of course, the more we strengthen the security of the technological arm that we use, then it's more effective for a business and pleasure and the country in general. means that in terms of efficiency and effectiveness, it is much better. So, like our physical security in terms of land, sea, and air, then cyber also needs its level of security. Hence, that is why we are involved in cybersecurity, and much attention has to be paid to that. The same way we pay attention to, the other security areas. This is important because we see more and more where the world is graduating or has graduated to using technology more. More things are online, shopping online, sending all kind of sensitive information online. And of course, we have a lot of incidents and offenses that is taking place, identity theft, human trafficking, all of these. And people tend to put their information online and sometimes volunteer sensitive information online, which can expose them unnecessarily. So having the relevant security layers in place, it protects me, it protects you, and it protects the general user. Knowing that when I go online to, I renew my driver's license, my data is secure about Warren Williams, and I don't have to worry that the government intends to implement the NITs. And of course, it's all right. And of course, we understand why Jamaicans are very much concerned because you're taking personal information about me and someone, if someone get access to that data, then you can implicate me negatively. So multi-factor authentication is quite relevant in times like these as the government push for more e-services, both public and private. And as the globe pushes in that direction, it's very, very important. So I must have that level of ease and comfort and relax that when I use the technology, it is safe. I'm okay. I don't have to worry because persons can't get to my information sent easily. And that's one of the takeaway from applying this multi-factor authentication as another layer of security. That's my take on it.
Okay, Mrs. Chutkan, any?
Yes. So, in addition, I just want to highlight again the benefits associated with uh, multi-factor authentication. As mentioned multiple times before, it adds another layer of security. And this is because passwords alone is not sufficient. Um, so multi-factor authentication ensures that if your login credentials get compromised, if the password is not enough, then the extra layer of authentication could provide some added security. Another benefit is that it safeguards confidential information. And as Mr. Williams mentioned, a lot of businesses are moving to the e-commerce side, and a lot of sensitive information are there for the taking. And multi-factor authentication makes this harder for the threat actors. It's sometimes users can be reckless, users are very vulnerable. As I said, social engineering is one of the ways that persons can gain access to your passwords and so on. So an organization should implement multi-factor authentication to ensure that uh, person's information, sensitive information, is protected. Another benefit is it meets regulatory requirements. So seeing where the cybersecurity space is going nowadays, a lot of organizations are implementing multi-factor authentication, are making it mandatory for us to have multi-factor authentication and to be in compliance with the different standards. You have to enable multi-factor authentication in your organization. So with these benefits highlighted, I really do hope that if our listeners have not yet enabled their multi-factor authentication, they will make an effort to do so now.
Yeah, might I
Right.
add to
So I
sorry.
believe that go ahead, Warren.
Yeah, I was just thinking of practical scenario in terms of multi-factor authentication. So let's think about your house. Unfortunately, in Jamaica, we have to put on the grill. So the criminal will have to come through the electronic gate, and of course, there's a camera on the gate. But if he gets through the gate, he has a next guest coming. He'll have to get through your grill, and then if he gets through the grill, then he has the door to encounter with. So that's the way we have to think. We have to give the actor as much challenge as we can, such that by the time he gets in, then we will be fully awakened and know that something is wrong and we need to act.
All right. So a word to the wise usually is sufficient. The way in which we're going to proceed now, we're going to ask if there is anybody in the audience who has a question, either from Zoom or the streaming platforms. So we're not seeing any takers. So I have a question for the panel. As we move into more of a a true multi-factor authentication paradigm and leave two-factor authentication behind, what advice would you have for the startups, particularly those entities that seek to leverage something as a service to provide commercial activities online when it comes to multi-factor authentication? I will start with DSP Williams.
Quite a relevant question in this day and age where, as I said before, as we move more and more to businesses online, e-business and e-commerce, it's quite important. And one of my colleagues has mentioned the standard. Not sure if Jamaica has a standard or it's a global standard. Multi-factor authentication is a new way of life. But I believe from the Jamaican standpoint, yes, and from businesses, it's quite critical that this should be a standard that businesses would have to adhere to in order to protect people's personal and sensitive information. Quite critical. And if we're going to do business online, then, as I said, I must have that layer of confidence and comfort to do business with you, to know that when I put my name, my date of birth, where I live, and a lot of things about me, it is secure when it's in your hands. And in tandem with that authentication, the necessary legal processes in place, like the Data Protection Act and such device. So yes, in the Bureau of Standards may not be the gatekeepers in terms of regulation for that, but I strongly believe that it should be the standard across the board at this point. As technology moves ahead, that we need to stay in line with it to know that whether we're in Jamaica or outside of Jamaica, we can be rest assured as users that when I use the services that you provide, when I put my information in your platform or on your website, I am good to go. I have nothing to worry about. That's what I think.
Any of the ladies want to take a virtual stab at it? I couldn't come up with another word for it just now. But I'm not advocating violence at all.
Of course not. We aren't.
Right.
Sure, I'll go ahead. My word of advice to those service providers, when looking to enable any multi-factor authentication solution, um, not only should they look into the credibility of the service that they're about to use, but also the compatibility with what they are providing. They have to ensure that they aren't sacrificing the usability of their service to implement the multi-factor authentication. They have to ensure that whatever they're integrating into their service is fully compatible and it will be functional. Because sometimes you'll find where you try to integrate something into a system you've paid an exorbitant amount of money for, and then it is not functioning, or your customers are the usability is being sacrificed. So my word of advice, just ensure you're finding something that's credible. There are good solutions out there. And ensure that it can be easily integrated into, if you're providing software as a service or a platform as a service, ensure that it's easily integrated and the usability is good. Your customers are satisfied. That's it from me.
Okay.
And in addition to that, Mr. Sterling, I want to say that what we realize is that today security is not at the forefront of a lot of businesses starting up today. And so ask, I want to advise that they implement multi-factor authentication, because this is one of the simple way to add security to your business. Uh, it helps to prevent common vulnerabilities like brute force attacks, uh, sh- uh, shared credentials, um, also reuse passwords. We want to stay away from those stuff, and we want to ensure that we have security at the forefront as when we're starting up the business. So this is in addition to what my colleague said earlier. Thanks.
So security by design, and a part of that design being multi-factor authentication. So that is what we would really say to the businesses as they seek to continue their pivoting in the online space. But then one of the challenges I see quite a lot, ladies and gentlemen, is there's a particular platform that a lot of entrepreneurs tend to use, and the way in which they implement their entrepreneurial ideas sometimes allow for easy cloning of these even though the platforms may have
Mr. Sterling, we're losing you.
You're losing me again. Okay, is it any better now?
Yes, we're good to go. If you could start over, please.
Okay, so you just gave advice to the businesses, and the short version of what I just said is, what would be your advice to the customers in how they do business, how they choose which businesses to take their clientele to when it comes to how secure their online presence and platforms are? What are you looking for as a customer when you seek to choose a secure online?
Well, let me just chip in as that, because I can also be considered on both sides of the fence. I am both a user and I'm providing security advice for the general user. So what I'm looking for, since I'm in the field, first of all, when you do business online, it's straight online systems that you're looking at. So you will either get some sort of website or some portal where you'll input data, whether it's voice, video, or text, a lot of sometimes personal data. So I am looking for websites that are authentic. How do I know that a website is authentic? I am trained to develop websites, and it's and nowadays persons don't even have to be trained to make websites. You have tools that are provided and available to someone who wants to create their own website and design it and so forth and so on. So let's say, for example, our financial institution. I do most of my, if not all of my business online. I don't go and join a bank line to do my transaction, pay my bills online, do everything online. But I have the capability of creating a website looking like one of these commercial entities that provides the service. And I input my credit card and debit card information and username and password. Now, if I am unscrupulous, want to do some nefarious activity on the bad side, I'm also a certified ethical hacker. But what about persons who use their training and skill set in an unethical manner? So let's say I create a website. For example, I won't call a name, but a financial institution that we do banking with. And how are you certain that that same banking site that you visit to pay $1 million to your supplier or 2 million US dollars, how do you know that it's authentic and it's not fake? Because I can create a website. Some persons may say you look for a HTTPS. Yes, that's one indication to tell you that it's secure. They say you look for a padlock in the URL to show that it's secure. But I can also do that. But for the public, I may can't tell them at this point what else they need to do to validate that the website is authentic. There are other things to do in terms of the issue date, if it's expired, a lot of things other than that. Maybe they're not forensic person, but there are other things you need to look for. And of course, what may can help the public, they may be able to use tools like Whois, WHOIS, to know if a website is authentic, because every website should be legally registered. But if you type that website name in Whois and you don't get a response in terms of who owns the website, who hosts it, your contact information, telephone, and email address, then it is not authentic. But the general public may not know that. So these are the little things you'll have to look for. And as a user, that would be my real concern. How do I know where I'm inputting my information? Is this website that provides a service? Is it authentic? That's my take.
My advice to customers when seeking to use an online platform, I would tell them that look, you still need to use your strong passwords in addition to your multi-factor authentication. You still need to read the site's privacy policies. It helps to know what they're doing with your information and how they are protecting your information. Uh, Use your secure internet connection. That is also very important as well. And know how that institution communicates with you so you can watch out for phishing scams. So if you get a text message from that organization or institution and they don't normally communicate with you by way of text message, then it raises an eye. So you just need to know how they communicate with you, and in addition to enabling your multi-factor authentication, and it it's a step in the right direction.
To throw it once more to the audience, because this is not just a conversation between the moderator and the panelists, but I would hope that there are persons who have additional concerns or just questions. So we're opening it up again as we seek to wrap this one.
If I may just add to the last point while we wait for responses. Um, as a customer as well, when you are approaching an institution to start business with them, um, don't just ask questions, how can you save me money? How can you make me money? Ask about the platforms that you'll be using. What's within your platform can I activate? Can I turn on in order to help protect the data that I will be entering into that platform? Just an additional piece of advice.
Well, that's a good point to make, Ms. Smith. And since you're on, I'll take you back to something you mentioned earlier. The use of, well, actually, it was Mrs. Shutkan who mentioned it, hard token versus soft token. And the question here is, are there inherent benefits to either, or do you get the same sort of protection from using both?
Thank you, Mr. Sterling. Well, to everything, there's a good and a bad. um, I personally use a soft token because it is more convenient for me. I won't leave it anywhere. The hard token, you can attach it to your keys, you can bring it around, however, you may lose it. The good thing is, in the instance where you lose your token, you need to contact your financial institution right away and have them advise you further as to what to do in that regard. However, they both have their benefits and they both have their disadvantages.
Mr. Sterling, might I add, I don't think the public should worry about the hard token because most institutions now are moving to the soft token. So, it's an app, and of course, it's readily available on your mobile like any other app. So they just use a soft token to generate a token. So I wouldn't worry too much about the hard token because the technology is moving away from that.
Okay.
Your mic is mute. Your mic is still mute.
We have a very quiet audience today, and we hope that the knowledge that has been imparted here would have resonated with some of the persons here, and the advice that has been given is something that persons will take on board. Ladies and gentlemen, it has indeed been a pleasure being here with you today as we seek to ramp up the public education and awareness around cybersecurity and cyber hygienic practices, but with a little bit more focus on those aspects of cybersecurity and cyber hygiene that really affects the enterprise. We understand that the larger enterprises within our ecosystem have some level of cybersecurity and cyber protection, but we're also aware that some of the less established entities, some of the startups, are not necessarily focusing on security as a design, and multi-factor authentication, if properly implemented, can provide that layered security that was spoken of earlier. Additionally, as individuals, as we seek to manage the multiplicity of accounts and other instances of our data or image or likeness online, we should seek to implement in a very conscientious way multi-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication has helped us, has served us well, but as all the panelists have agreed, it is something that we're moving away from. As such, I thank you for your participation today, Mrs. Kiana Chutkan, Ms. Sherry Smith, and DSP Warren Williams. For our audience.
Can I leave a final word? Sorry.
Yes, I am going to give each of you 10 seconds to make a final comment. Right? For our audience, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And as we move through the month, we hope to build momentum as the goodness of what can be achieved from participating in these sessions go around. So, gentlemen and ladies, as we close this session, you have literally 10 seconds each to just add your final comments on multi-factor authentication from both the enterprise standpoint as well as the customer standpoint.
Right. So because I have to move now, I'll just go quickly. The jargon is to do not trust, but verify. So the technology is there, use it, but to a certain level. Verify to ensure that what you're using and what you're doing, it's working to your benefit.
All right.
Thank you.
So go ahead, sorry.
No, I was thanking him because he indicated that he had to get off the platform. So you may go ahead, Mrs. Chutka.
All right. So now that we all understand how multi-factor authentication works, the benefits of it, I would implore that we go ahead and enable it. It is a simple way of adding another layer of security. And with the direction where cybersecurity is going right now, it is very important that it is something we implement. And I just want to reiterate that two-factor authentication is a subset of multi-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication has its vulnerabilities, which is why we encourage you guys to enable the multi-factor authentication. Time is of the essence. Go ahead and do it now. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't believe it could have been said more succinctly unless Ms. Simit has a shorter version of her comments. Go ahead, ma'am.
I think that was perfect. So just to repeat what my colleague said, whether you are a large enterprise, you're a startup, you're a customer, a single individual, there are just too many benefits for us not to enable multi-factor authentication where it's available, or to integrate something that puts it into our system, integrate it into our systems. So it's just to take advantage of the technology that's available to us nowadays to make us less vulnerable in cyberspace. That's my piece.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure to be here with you today. And certainly, the first week of Cybersecurity Month is always the most difficult because it is when you're trying to get persons to, just focus their attention on the activities that we end this session, and it really marks the end of week one. And it has been a very slow start to the week, but we welcome you all back on Tuesday of next week at 2 p.m. via the same platforms as we seek to move forward with our theme this year. Cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. And we focus on the enterprise, particularly the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Thank you all for coming today. Walk good.
All right, thank you.
Recording stopped.